Hey, this is Jonathan Matoshnik. And so I had a comment on one of my videos, and I usually don't see all the comments, but I happened to see this one and I read it, and I wanted to read it and comment on it because I think it's I think it's very important. So basically, the question goes, and I'll paraphrase it. I've been thinking about starting up a part-time residential lawn care service this spring, and that's really focused on just mowing, weed eating, and trimming. And I've been thinking really hard about the pros and cons of the industry. And you are by far the most optimistic person I've seen so far in the industry. So this individual was on lawnsite.com's forums, and they've seen a lot of tenured vets who often bring down, this is what they're saying, they often bring down the newcomer's hope when they do the math to show us that after all the insurance, taxes, maintenance, and other costs, they are making less than $12 an hour. And then he goes on to say, but if this was reality, there's no point being in the business. And he says, I'm also an IT guy. I work a full-time job, 4 days a week, 10 hours a day for one of the biggest companies in the industry. And then also he works part-time in the evening in Oklahoma. And goes on and basically makes a few points about starting the business on the side. And he's watched the videos. And he wants to start up part-time here, and he's asking for any advice on learning business administration and marketing and such. So I thought it was a nice post, but a couple things jumped out at me specifically that I really wanted to point out that I think are just really critical. So he said, I'm by far the most optimistic guy in the industry, and most of the vets are negative. So without offending anybody, I think the forums are good, but I think you have to be really careful on the lawn care forums. And this is for any industry, on any forum. Sometimes what happens on the forums is the individuals it sometimes attracts people that are negative and pessimistic, and it gives people a place to vent. And generally, what's vented is the negative side of everything. You don't as often have a lot of really happy, successful people getting together and all doing nothing but talking about how great life is and how great everything's going. You tend to have, and this is true of everything in life, you tend to have more often than not people gathering in places to complain. So I want to be very careful in the statements I made, because that is not, because somebody's on the forum and talking does not mean by any means that they fall into that boat, or that their advice is negative or their business is not going well. I don't mean that at all. There's plenty of guys that get on the forums that really know what they're doing and give advice and try to help other guys out, and they don't fall into that scenario. But I'm just saying that if you generally read a lot of forums from industry to industry, they tend to attract more negative information than they do positive. So by simply reading a forum, sometimes you miss all of the good information that's being spread because it's not always on the forum. So just be careful when you're looking at that stuff and keep that in mind. The other thing I've learned, and it's important to know that I've been in a lot of different businesses in multiple industries, from technology and all kinds of industries in technology to lawn care to janitorial, carpet cleaning. I've been involved in the pest control side of the industry, fertilization, weed control. You name it, I've done a lot of different stuff over the years. I'm also in some business groups that are involved. I'm involved with extremely successful people. In one of the groups, you have to at least have a 7-figure net worth to be part of it, and there's 8 of us in it. And these guys all come from completely different industries. And so I'm surrounded by individuals that are very successful, and I've been in a lot of different industries. And I tell you that to tell you that there is no perfect business. It's a complete myth. There's a lot of information being spread across the internet about how you can get rich really quickly. That information spread all over the place, but it's really predominant on the internet. There's this concept being spread that there's an easy way, that there's a way that's not going to take much work or any money, and it's just going to happen. It's going to be really easy for you. And so what happens is it leads to a lot of disappointment, is my belief. So guys get in and they think it's going to be easy and they're not going to have to work hard, and then they're ultimately disappointed, and then they become one of those negative individuals that spread basically a lot of negative information. So I think that it's imperative that you're very, very careful about what you let into your head and what you pay attention to. There are a tremendous number of people that have very lousy businesses. And It's amazing to me how few people actually have even a $1 million a year business. So a $1 million a year business takes quite a bit of work to build. And it gets a lot easier after you hit the $1 million mark. The $2 million mark's a lot easier, and it at some level gets easier. But as you get bigger, you do start to bump into some certain walls and some barriers. At the $5-10 million marks, there's some changes that have to occur inside of you to be able to break through those areas and grow your business. So the reason I tell you all of this stuff is most guys hit their first ceiling before they get to the $1 million. I think that ceiling's probably somewhere around 300 grand, because and I don't know what the exact number is, but there comes a point there where you have to break out of being the guy doing the work. So one of the biggest concepts that I promote is not being the guy in the field, or at least not being the guy doing the majority of the work in the field. Do not be the laborer in the field as quickly as you can. So most of the time when you hear about guys that are unhappy and miserable, they tend to still be in the field. And then the guys that are out of the field that are unhappy and miserable are the very guys that are struggling. And we have all gone through challenges in our businesses, so it doesn't cast a negative light on them in any way. I'm just saying that whenever they're negative about their business and they're outside the field, there's some mistake that they're making. And that's pretty much what happens to all of us. I tend to believe that if my business is got a problem, or it's not profitable, or I've got problem employees, or something is wrong with my business, it's my fault. I started the business, I grew the business, it's my responsibility. There's something I don't know, there's something I'm missing, there's something I haven't learned, and I've got to learn it to fix it, so it's my fault. So if your business is lousy, it's your fault. Doesn't mean you're a bad person, but it simply means you've got to figure out how to fix it. A great friend of mine who is in a business mastermind group with me, it's one of the most successful people I've ever met, is working on a book right now on how to triple the profits of your business, or triple the value of your business when you go to sell it. And the other night when we were together, he made a great statement, and that was that a lot of times when you sit down with a business owner and you help them optimize their business so that when they cash out and walk away, they can get way more money than they had initially anticipated. So basically, he's helping somebody get triple the value for their business. And he said one thing that often happens when you go through that process is the guy that wanted to sell his business no longer wants to sell his business after you go through and fix all the problems so he can get triple the value. So keep that concept in mind. Guys that are unhappy with their business, it's generally because of profit margins, just as you expressed. Well, how do you fix profit margins? That's the real heart of the issue here. How do you do better at marketing? You raise your prices. You focus, you get out of the field, you hire better employees, you cut your overhead, you don't get yourself in heavy debt. I mean, I can rattle off 50 different things you do to have a better profit margin. They're all lessons you have to learn as a business owner, because those lessons are generally born out of mistakes that you've made. So